Welcome to our deep dive, everybody. This time we're looking ahead to Ajax taking on Lazio.
Europa League.
Yeah, it's going to be in Amsterdam, December 12th. Now, I was looking at this matchup, and at first glance, I was like, okay, Lazio's on a roll, right? They're going to waltz into Ajax's home turf and take care of business. But I started digging into the data, and man,
things get a little interesting.
Yeah, it gets a little spicy.
It does. It does. Beyond just the win-loss columns.
Yeah.
It tells a very different story.
Exactly. So let's set the stage here. We've got Lazio coming in hot. They've won 4
of their last 6.
Out of their last 6, yeah.
Looking dominant.
Looking very dominant.
Mm-hmm.
And meanwhile, Ajax, in that same time frame, have only pulled out 2 wins.
Yeah.
So on the surface, it's like, oh man, Ajax is in trouble.
Right. But we got to look beyond just those wins and losses. I mean, football's not that simple, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot more complex. Let's look at Lazio's defense, for example. They've only given up an average of 0.83 goals per match in those 6 games.
That's
a tight ship.
That's a really,
a very, very good defense.
That's a brick wall. So it seems like even though, Ajax may be scoring more overall, Lazio's defense is like, nope.
Yeah.
Not today.
Not today. Not so fast.
So do you think that's going to be enough to stifle Ajax, especially at home?
That's a good question. That's the million-dollar question, I think, because we also have to consider Ajax's home field advantage.
Right.
And that's something you can't just ignore it. I mean, they've been undefeated at home.
Yeah, they've been
their last 5.
Undefeated, yeah, their last 5. Johan Cruyff Arena, they're scoring like a crazy amount of goals.
14 goals.
14.
And only letting in 2.
It's insane.
So, that home crowd really does something for them.
Almost like a superpower or something. It's like, oh, we're at home, we're good.
Yeah.
But is that typical for Ajax, or is this like a special thing they got going on?
Well, that's what makes this so interesting, is that home form is really contrasting with their overall performance this season.
Oh, God.
They've been inconsistent. So it really makes you wonder if they can kind of maintain that dominance at home against a team like Lazio, who are just firing on all cylinders right now.
And you mentioned, Lazio's form, it's undeniable. But there's this one detail, right, that really, really makes things spicy.
There is.
And it's their away record.
Their away record is a little bit of a different story. It's a different beast.
It's not pretty. 2 losses, 2 draws.
And only 1 win.
And only 1 win in their last 5 away matches.
Yeah, it's a very different picture.
I mean, come on, that's wild. So the team with 4 wins in their last 6 only has 1 in their last 5 away games. What's going on there? What is it about, playing away from home?
I think one thing that sticks out is their offensive vulnerability away from home. I mean, they almost concede double the goals.
Wow.
On the road.
Yeah. So their rock solid defense
crumbles a little bit
from home.
Yeah. I guess even the best defenses can get rattled. It happens.
Right. But what about their offense? Do they still manage to, put up the numbers even when they're struggling defensively away from home?
They do. I mean, their attacking output is fairly consistent even in their away losses.
Yeah.
And they've played some tough opponents recently, like Napoli and Atalanta.
Yeah.
On the road, so they can score against strong teams.
So even though their defense is a little shaky, their offense can still pack a punch. Okay. This is starting to sound like a high-scoring affair, but I'm curious, what is it about their defense that really seems to falter?
Well, that's a great question. I think to really understand that, we need to dig a little deeper.
Yeah.
And kind of, I guess, go into the tactical side of things.
Right. So let's get tactical.
Let's do it.
Let's break it down.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've got these two stories kind of clashing here. We've got Ajax super strong at home, but shaky overall. And then you got Lazio on this win streak, but they really struggle on the road.
Right.
It's a very interesting matchup.
Yeah, it is. And even though their away form's been kind of inconsistent, their defense has shown some solidity, at least recently.
Yeah.
They've only given up, let's see, Ajax has only had 2 clean sheets.
Okay.
In their last 6.
Right.
And their overall clean sheet rate this season's been pretty abysmal, only 14.75%.
Oof. Not a great stat for the Ajax fans out there. But those 2 clean sheets, those did happen during their home win streak, right?
They did. They did. So there's that little glimmer of hope, maybe.
Maybe.
But then again, Lazio has been much more defensively sound.
Right.
I mean, only letting in an average of 0.83 goals a game in their last 6. And they even shut out, remember, they shut out Napoli in a recent away victory.
Oh, that's right. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah.
So it seems like maybe their defense is traveling a bit better than their away form suggests. But can they really contain Ajax's attack?
Well, both teams average over 2 goals scored per game.
Wow.
So there's definitely potential for this to turn into like a real offensive shootout.
Oh man, I love those games.
They're exciting.
Yeah. So, we've got 2 teams that love to put the ball in the back of the net. But it seems like only one of them, at least on paper, has a reliable defense.
Yeah.
So this sounds like a recipe for disaster for Lazio, maybe. I don't know. I'm just speculating here. What are your thoughts? Do you think their recent defensive improvements, do you think those will hold up against a team like Ajax?
It's tough to say. Football's unpredictable, right? It doesn't always follow the script.
Right.
But if we kind of dig a little deeper and look at some individual player matchups, we might get a better sense.
Okay. So let's get into the weeds a little bit here.
Let's do it.
Who are some of the key players we should be watching, the difference makers, the ones that can really, really swing the momentum of this match?
Well, for Ajax, you got to keep an eye on Bertrand Traoré, Walt Weghorst, and Dede Klaassen.
Okay.
They've been the main attacking threats this season, all tied with 3 goals each.
Okay, so those are the guys that can punish Lazio if their defense isn't on point.
Definitely, especially Traoré with his speed.
Oh yeah,
he can really cause some problems.
And what about Lazio? Who do they have that stands out as a game changer?
Lazio's attack is a little bit more spread out. They don't really have one player that's just dominating the score sheet.
Okay.
Their strength lies in their consistency and their ability to attack from multiple angles.
Okay, so they're a little more unpredictable.
They are. Yeah, they are. You can't just shut down 1 or 2 players and think you've got them figured out.
Right. You got to be prepared for anything. Do you think that makes them more dangerous in a way?
I mean, it definitely makes them harder to defend against.
Right.
And I think it speaks to their manager's tactical flexibility. Maurizio Sarri. He's known for his possession-based, fluid style of play. A lot of movement, a lot of passing combinations.
So it sounds like this is going to be a real tactical battle.
I think so, yeah.
You've got Ajax's high-energy, attack and their home advantage, obviously. And then you got Lazio, who are very disciplined, at least defensively, and they can really control the tempo of the game.
Right. And it's not just about, tactics and formations. It's about those individual moments of brilliance, those, unexpected twists of fate.
Right. I mean, that's what makes football so great. It's unpredictable. But speaking of, analysis, you've been looking at some deeper tactical aspects of this matchup.
I have.
I'm really curious to hear what you found. So let's go beyond the basic stats.
Right,
let's really get into the tactical side of things here.
All right.
You mentioned Lazio's manager, his possession-based style. Can you unpack that a little bit for us?
Yeah. So Maurizio Sarri is a proponent of what's often called Saraball.
Saraball.
Yeah.
I like it.
It's a very specific style of play. It emphasizes short, quick passing, patient build-up play, the fluid movement off the ball. And they usually line up in this 3-5-2 formation that really allows them to control the midfield and kind of dictate the tempo.
Okay, so they like to keep the ball. They like to kind of slowly suffocate you.
Yeah, they're patient. Very patient.
Interesting. And what about Ajax? What's their style? Yeah, tactically.
Well, Ajax under Erik ten Hag, they're known for this high-pressing attacking style. Yeah. Really aggressive. They usually favor a 4-3-3 formation, which lets those wingers exploit the space on the flanks and deliver those dangerous crosses into the box.
So it's a classic clash of styles here. We've got attack-minded Ajax versus possession-oriented Lazio. This is like a chess match on the pitch.
It really is. And to understand how these styles might clash, I think it helps to visualize what might happen.
Yeah.
So imagine this. Ajax, with their high press, they're forcing Lazio into mistakes. Winning the ball high up the pitch, launching quick counterattacks. Those wingers, like I said, they're pushing up the field, stretching Lazio's defense wide,
yeah,
and then whipping in those crosses.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. That sounds like a nightmare for Lazio's defense if they can't handle that pressure.
Yeah.
What about when Lazio manages to break through Ajax's press and they establish their possession game? What happens then?
That's when things get interesting. I mean, imagine this. Lazio, with their patient buildup, they're slowly moving the ball around. They're probing for weaknesses in Ajax's defense. Those midfielders are pulling the strings, dictating the tempo. And they're waiting for that perfect moment to unleash a killer pass.
Ah, man. Two completely different approaches, both with the potential to be incredibly effective. It's like watching two master painters with contrasting styles, each creating their own masterpiece on the canvas of the football pitch.
That's a great analogy. And it really highlights, I think, the beauty of this matchup.
Yeah.
These two very different philosophies going head to head.
It's what makes football so compelling.
It really is. It's the tactical intricacies, the individual brilliance, the unpredictable nature of it all. It's all part of the spectacle.
And I love how even with all the analysis, with all the data, with all the stats, there's always that element of surprise in football.
There is. You never know what's going to happen.
But speaking of analysis,
yeah,
I know you've been looking at this game.
Yeah.
You've been studying it.
I've been thinking about it a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any personal, I don't know, opinions or predictions or anything, or are you just keeping it close to the vest?
I think based on the data and my understanding of how these two teams approach the game, I think it could really go either way. It depends on who can impose their style more effectively.
I agree. This feels like one of those matches where, anything could happen. but to make things even more interesting, let's zoom in on some specific player matchups.
All right, let's do it. Let's break it down.
Okay, so we've talked about, those contrasting styles and how they might clash on the pitch. Let's get down to like the individual battles within this tactical war, right? Who are the players, the specific guys whose performances could really swing the momentum?
Yeah, there are a lot of intriguing matchups to keep an eye on. One that I think immediately comes to mind is in the midfield between Ajax's Davy Klaassen and Lazio's Sergej Milinkovic-Savic.
Okay, I know Klaassen is a key player for Ajax, but remind me, what makes this matchup so crucial? What are their strengths and weaknesses?
Well, Klaassen, he's kind of the heartbeat of that Ajax attack.
Okay.
Very creative midfielder, great passing range. And he's got a knack for finding those pockets of space between lines.
Yeah.
But he's not just a playmaker. He can also score goals himself.
Yeah, I remember seeing some highlights of his goals this season. He's got a pretty powerful shot on him. So how does Milinkovic-Savic usually handle those kinds of players, those creative midfielders?
Milinkovic-Savic is a really interesting player. I mean, he's big, he's strong, incredibly versatile. He can play, as a defensive midfielder, box-to-box midfielder, or even, further up the pitch. He's known for his physicality, his ability to win those aerial duels.
Yeah.
And he's got some powerful runs from deep.
Okay.
But defensively, I mean, he's very intelligent. He reads the game well.
So it sounds like this is going to be a battle of like brains versus brawn in the middle of the park.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. You got Klaassen with that creativity, and then you got Milinkovic-Savic who can really disrupt things with his physical presence.
Right. And if Milinkovic-Savic can shut down Klaassen, I mean, that really disrupts Ajax's whole attacking flow.
For sure. It could be a long night for the home team.
Right. But on the flip side, if Klaassen can kind of outsmart him, find those spaces to operate, he could unlock that Lazio defense.
Exactly. So it's going to be a really interesting battle to watch.
Oh, yeah. High stakes in the midfield there. Now, what about the wings? We talked about Ajax's wingers, those dangerous crosses they can deliver. Any specific matchups there that we should be paying attention to?
Yeah, absolutely. I think on the right side you got Ajax's Bertrand Traoré,
right,
going up against Lazio's left wing back Elset Hazaj. And this is kind of a classic speed versus experience battle.
Okay, yeah. Traoré with that blistering pace, that tricky dribbling, he's a handful for any defender.
He is.
Can Hazaj keep up with that kind of, speed?
Well, Hazaj, he might not be the fastest guy on the pitch.
Okay.
But he's a smart defender.
Okay.
He reads the game well, anticipates his opponent's movements,
Yeah.
and he's good at positioning himself to kind of cut out those passing lanes.
So it's not just a foot race then, it's really about like who can outsmart the other.
Yeah, it's a tactical battle as much as it is a physical one.
Do you think Hazaj is going to be able to handle Traore one-on-one, or is he going to need some help from his teammates?
I think he'll try to use his positioning and his awareness to kind of minimize Traore's impact. But I think he'll also need some support from his midfielders and center backs to double team Traore when necessary.
Okay, so teamwork, communication, that's going to be key for Lazio if they want to shut down those Ajax wingers.
Absolutely.
And lastly, what about the strikers? You know, those battles up front.
Well, you got Ajax as well, Weghorst.
Yeah.
He's a force to be reckoned with.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he's big, he's physical, constant threat in the air, and a very clinical finisher.
Okay.
He's going up against Lazio's center back pairing of Francesco Cerbi and Luis Felipe. Both very experienced, very strong defenders.
So this is strength versus strength.
It is.
Do you think Weghorst will be able to just kind of bully his way past those Lazio defenders?
You know, it's hard to say. Weghorst is a handful, but Cerbi and Felipe are no pushovers.
Right.
They're both solid in the air and they're tough in the tackle. So it's gonna be really interesting to see who wins that physical battle.
All right. So it sounds like we've got tons of these little battles, these individual battles going on within this larger tactical chess match. What are some key takeaways for our listener though? What should they be focusing on when they watch this game?
Well, I think first and foremost, pay attention to how each team tries to impose their style.
Right.
Will Ajax's, high pressing, attacking approach overwhelm Lazio, or will Lazio be able to, kind of control the tempo, dictate the play with that possession-based style?
Right. That's the main tactical battle to watch. And then within that context, they should be looking at those key individual matchups that we discussed.
Exactly.
Right, because those could really determine who gets the upper hand.
And finally, I think this is important. Football's unpredictable.
Right.
I mean, even with all the analysis, all the predictions, the beauty of the game is that anything can happen.
I love that. Even with all of our deep dives, all of our, tactical breakdowns, there's always that element of surprise.
Always.
That moment of magic that can change everything.
You never know what's going to happen.
Absolutely. So to our listener, I say, enjoy the spectacle, savor the tactical nuances, appreciate the individual brilliance, and most importantly, be prepared to be amazed.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Be sure to tune in to what promises to be, I think, a really thrilling Europa League encounter. Until next time,